Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to wherever you are in the world. Welcome back to another episode of the Coffee Hour, the Sunday Invest and Chill edition. Today, all right, we're looking at the markets and looks like it's doing well, but can't say that across the world because Korea is absolutely getting slammed right now. I think they're down 9%. Last I checked, they already triggered a circuit breaker. All right, South Korea specifically was all the rage. And, they have Samsung selling off. I'm sure SK Hynix is probably not too far behind. And it looks like that is ongoing at this time. Absolutely insane what is happening over there. Appreciate everyone for joining. Hope you guys had a great weekend, or at least finishing up your weekend. All right. Hope you guys went out and touched some grass, at least got away from finance land. We do see a couple of positive developments happening. All right, we're going to cover some of it. Again, this is the Sunday Invest and Chill session. Not a whole lot of scripts, not a whole lot of content to go over. All right, this is really driven by you guys. If any of you guys want to come onto the show and, kind of just share what you're investing in or talk about anything, you're more than welcome to. I will put it in the YouTube chat in case you are interested. Let me go ahead and load that up for X as well. All right, always welcome anyone coming on to the show and talk about whatever. I don't know, talk about investing, right? What are you investing in? What are you buying? Don't be shy. All right, we got that loaded. All right, so let's go ahead and get right. What are you investing in? What are you buying? What is that? Don't be shy. Man, that always gets me every time I hear myself talk. That is wild. Let me go ahead and fix that. Post this. Boom. Bingo, bango, and a bongo. So, how's everyone doing? Put it in the chat. Let me know how you guys are doing. Are you guys doing all right? Are you happy with the futures market right now? Because it does look like we are starting to pump. Is that pump going to last for, into the market open? Okay. Are we going to correct? Are we going to continue correcting, or do we just continue pushing from here? Let me know what your thoughts are down below. All right. So far we have in the chat, we have Joseph saying, I love that cigar. Wow. That is awesome. That's an awesome default photo, man. Awesome. That looks like a Romeo and Juliet, maybe. No, I don't think so. That band's not a Romeo, but anyways, might even be a Partagas. Anyways, love seeing the red. Hopefully we can get a continuation so I can add some to my long-term holdings. Excellent. That is what I'm hoping for too. I would like to see a bigger pullback on some of the memory names, and so I can go in and sneak in and grab some shares. We'll see. All right, so let's get into it, ladies and gentlemen. All right, we have it from Watch It All Fall. Hey, Eugen. Well, hello to you. All right, we're going to rehash something from the past because I love this song. All right, so shout out to Meet Kevin and Charles Payne. Here we go.
Oh man, your boy Kevin just lost lots of money. Oh, but that's okay. I am with you. Oh man, your boy Kevin just lost lots of money. Oh, but that's okay. I am with you. Here we go, come on, push it, buy the dip. Here we go, come on, push it, buy the dip. Here we go, come on, push it, buy the dip. Here we go, come on, push it. Oh my God, what's happening?
First of all this whining by Wall Street is making me sick. 140% of GameStop was short. Short. You can't allow Wall Street to short 75% of its stock, crush these companies into the dirt, thousands of stocks into the dirt. Then when the individual makes money, everyone's entrepreneurs. I have a kid who bought a house, paid $50,000 and bought a house. After decades of the short, you have to accept the fact that individual investors are playing the same game that you're playing, and now you're losing.
Here we go, come on, push it, buy the dip. Here we go, come on, push it, buy the dip. Here we go, come on, push it, buy the dip. Here we go, come on, push it. Oh my God, what's happening? Here we go, come on, push it, buy the dip. Here we go, come on, push it, buy the dip. Here we go, come on, push it, buy the dip. Here we go, come on, push it. Oh my God, what's happening?
All right, hope you guys enjoyed that. All right, for this Sunday edition, let's get into it. All right, so we have from Mint Tea Mafia. All right, from Watch It All Fall. I actually didn't know that, so I'm glad you came out and let me know, because I can't tell everyone's YouTube name from their Discord name, so I appreciate you, Mint Tea Mafia, for joining. And we have from Joseph. I don't remember what cigar that was. I try lots, but my favorite is always an Ashton. I don't think I've ever had an Ashton. My preferred brand of cigar is anything really. No, but I like the HP or the H. Upmans. That's my favorite. Partagas is also my favorite. The Partagas Cuban cigar lineup is out of this world. Absolutely some of the finest I've ever had. But then again, I mean, I think my most expensive cigar I've ever had was about maybe $60 a stick. So I haven't really made my range way up there. I've had a lot of the infused. I've had the acids. I've had the Talibaks. Or the Tabacs. I've had the what else? Man, I've had a bunch. Romeo Julietas. Oh man, I've had so many. I can't even remember all the brands. But anyways, awesome. Okay, let's take a look. Always appreciate you guys joining. Let's see what the futures are doing today. All right. We have S&P 500 still up for now. Nasdaq up 65 basis points. And we see that gold still not doing anything. Absolutely lazy metal. And we have futures for oil climbing back up. Okay, there was some news that did drop. And that news is Iran is starting to send some, love packages towards Israel. And that seemed to have sold some of the market off. At least, that is the perception for the Korean index. So we'll see if that continues into the market open. Trump, there was a piece of news coming out from the Trump administration, basically saying that Trump is telling Israel not to strike back and escalate this war. So we'll see what happens. Of course, this is a fluid situation, and we just don't know what's going to happen. All right, so that is what we got going on. That was from last Friday. Stock futures. All right, so U.S. stock futures fall as Iran attacks Israel. South Korea's Kospi plunges 8%. Absolutely disgusting. I mean, you guys can see that right there. Not doing so hot. Looks like it's having a little bit of a bounce. So, I mean, that's okay. So Kospi index, for those who don't know, is the Korean index. And it had a really bad drop. It was close to 9%, almost 10% here. But it looks like that circuit breaker may have calmed the market for a little bit. And it looks like trading is resumed at this moment. We could check over the last 5 days. Thursday is definitely when the sell-off started happening. So since Thursday, the index for the Korean market is down 13.5, almost 13.5%. Disgusting. I mean, imagine the S&P 500 dropping 13% in a single 2 days, 2 to 3 days. That would be incredible, incredibly bad. But yeah, I mean, again, these types of things happen. This is a cool off period. Semis were way overbought. Everyone's hopping into these names now. Retail is taking, is on board with the semi trade. So I think, right. And I published a couple of my thoughts on Friday of what I thought, was the reason for the market sell-off. And again, it's nothing that we didn't already cover. But I'll just, kind of rehash some of those thoughts here. So one, it's portfolio and fund managers rebalancing their portfolios. Again, this is the end of quarter 2, 2026. We're pretty much at the end. Earnings had just ended for Broadcom, and then the market started tanking, right? So I think in my mind that there's a lot of rebalancing going on as we end the quarter, okay? And then also we had huge gains in the AI and semi trade. I mean, you could literally throw a dart at anything and it was going to go up, right? We were seeing these crazy parabolic moves. You guys can check out SMH, the ETF from Van Eck, or even, SOX, and it's just up and to the right. Eventually it has to cool down, right? It was 70% above its 200. So, that caused a little bit of a concern, right? The second one is SpaceX. I still think this narrative is true, right? SpaceX is right around the corner. Along with the fund managers, you're going to have retail that wants to sell out of some of their biggest winners and get ready for the SpaceX IPO. And then I think, right, and again, Tom Lee's covered this as well, that there's 3 mega IPOs happening this year, one of which is SpaceX, the other is Anthropic, and then we also have OpenAI. These 3 huge IPOs is going to cause some volatility from now until October, right? Now until October, until the end of the IPO season. Okay, we also had, again, on the backs of these 3 mega IPOs, crypto going down. Bitcoin was down a lot on Friday. It was almost scary how far down it went. And now we're seeing a bunch of videos coming out calling for 40,000 Bitcoin, 50,000 Bitcoin, 35,000 Bitcoin. I think it's a lot of noise. I think it's a lot of, it's a lot of bullshit, to be honest. It's just people throwing out these random numbers. I think, and again, I've shared or at least what I've been looking at, some of the research backing this is the power law. I've talked about this on previous streams. The power law has Bitcoin at 58K, right? 58K is the bottom for this period, right? And I think we're going to chop up further and then have one final shakeout, one final sell-off in October. That'll complete the 4-year cycle for Bitcoin, and then we can climb higher. Of course, all this is just speculation, all right? So going back to this, that's also why possibly Bitcoin was selling off, was because investors are taking the money out of the most liquid asset, and then pumping it or holding it in cash and getting ready for these IPOs. At least that's the idea, right? That's the thoughts. And of course, semis were 70% above their SMAs. So let's see who we have in the chat. We got Rodstaman saying dumb gold. We have Joseph saying great choices. My standards are about $15 to $25 a stick. Yeah. We're talking about cigars earlier. And for cigars, my daily smoke is like a $2 or $3 stick. It's called Quorum. That's one of them. There's also Cuba. I can't remember the name. There's a couple of them that are amazing actually for the price tag. I mean, $2 to $3. It's not going to break the bank. You can get a pack of 20 of them. But I think Quorum is one of them. There's one I think called Rosa Cuba that also is pretty good. That I enjoy anyways. I enjoy it with like my coffee. And then you also have I can't remember the last one, but it's a full Nicaraguan. It's delicious. But anyways, outside of that, I could talk about cigars, man. I love cigars. Let's see. We have from Desert Yinzer. VIX over 21 means Misty and Alti are getting ready to rip. Knock it off. Knock it off. All right. Enough with that. We have Sergio. I am alive and breathing. And I've seen all those videos. Well, I didn't see all the videos you sent me, but I will be seeing all those videos at the conclusion of this stream and taking a look. Sergio has been hyping up quantum. Honestly, it's the first time I ever heard him mention quantum. I'm just kidding, of course. But yeah, he's been talking his book about quantum. And honestly, the quantum space is looking very interesting. So I also want to share this photo because just for some more humor, after all, this is the Invest and Chill session. Whoops, that's not the right one. Let me get this link. Or maybe I can, let's see. No, I can't. Okay, let me copy this link. Again, this is just for more additional humor because I know you guys love a good joke. All right, so I posted this on the other channel. And again, I'm not bearish on Chippy, but I think the market has a way of humbling a lot of investors. So I thought this was pretty funny. Anyways, let's see what else we have. We have Vladdy. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back, Vladdy. From Rostaman, rise back next week between 62 and 65K. All right. And we have from Rostaman, lettuce gars is the best smoke. Hey, the devil's lettuce. All right. Victor is my quantum photonics quant. And then we also have from Joseph, am I the only idiot thinking of loading back on RVI? Man, I thought about RVI, right? I ended up selling my position RVI for a gain. I could have cashed out at 200%. I could have cashed out, much sooner than that. But greed takes the best of you. I ended up writing it down from 200 all the way down to about, I think like 60-ish%, if I'm not mistaken. RVI is not a bad fund. Definitely not a bad fund. I just don't want all those extra names, so I ended up selling it without, I didn't care. I was like, whatever, I'll just lock in the gains that I do have on it. And I ended up selling it. And then I wanted more open AI exposure. So I actually invested into a different stock. I don't want to mention it on this stream because it is a micro stock at this point. But they have direct exposure to OpenAI and to it's basically the Sam Altman ecosystem. So you also have WorldCoin in there as well. Some of you guys might know what I'm talking about. All right. If you guys check out, BM&R's chairman messages from Tom Lee, he mentions that particular stock. All right. Not financial advice, but I did open a position in that stock, just to have that exposure. So whenever OpenAI eventually does IPO, hopefully this stock, the risk reward will look good. But of course, it could just trade flat and down. So you got to keep that in mind as well. We have Scooter D coming out of left field. Good evening. Copsy, or is it Copsy or Kospi? It is Kospi. Yeah, Kospi index down. It looks like it's starting to recover. Well, a little bit of a recovery. All right. So it was down close to 9%. And now then they hit the circuit breaker and it does look like it's coming back up. So that's always a good thing. So we did have an ETF drop. All right. Shout out to Skeptic in the Discord. So he found this, and this is coming from Curve. All right. This is coming from Curve ETF. They're coming out with a couple of different ETFs for gold miners and silver miners, as well as gold and silver. So these will be income funds similar to their KCOP. So the KCOP, ETF, as you guys know, is silver or is copper and copper miners. So this one will also have the silver miners and gold miners. So that's really cool. Doo-doo. Yeah. Doo-doo. I'll use my magic 8-ball orb to figure that stock out. Yes, you figured it out. I like it. Need some damn green, says Retire on Dividends. And yes, I'm in agreement. My portfolio looks like it's having a recovery only because Bitcoin is starting its climb back up. So I've been pretty happy with how Bitcoin is responding. Again, I'm not saying I called it, but I'm saying the power law showed that the bottom was 58K. People are still calling for a massive drop. We'll see if that happens. And it looks like, it looks like Bitcoin is going to be a really volatile. It's probably going to chop up and down, left and right for a while, right? I don't know if we're going to climb back up. I have no idea. I did initiate another buy on my IBIT, added to it, because I just think this is really a good price. Like, I honestly, this is a really good price for me, right? Not for everyone. It could go lower. Maybe the power law is broken and violated. Who knows? But I opted to buy more Bitcoin. Again, if anyone wants to come on to the show and speak their book about anything, I don't care what, the link is in the chat. All right. Okay. So moving on from that, this was a nice little infographic that Skeptic created for us. So in case anyone is interested in the new ETFs coming out of Curve for KGDX and KSIL, this is a quick little thing you could take a snapshot of, or you could take a screenshot and go back through. But really, if you like Curve, if you like KCOP, if you like the KGLD, if you like the KSIL, or no, not KSIL, KSLV, I think it is. If you like those ETFs, then there'd be no reason why you wouldn't like something like this. It's going to give you more exposure to the silver mining companies and to the actual spot price of, the asset. Yeah. Speaking of cigars, I got to stop smoking when I'm sick because I cannot stop coughing. Anyways, let's take a look at Bitcoin. All right. So Bitcoin trending nicely. All right. We saw this crazy dip over the weekend. All right. Down, what was it? 60. I think we were down even, let's see, over here. This is one day. Yeah. Over the last 5 days, we saw a dip. It was honestly in the 59s. Yeah, there we go. 5,900. And again, I just got to put it out there because I'm so amazed by this damn thing. The power law had Bitcoin bottoming at 58.6, right? And this dropped to 59.3. So absolutely amazing. Again, that is what I'm using personally as my own indicator. You shouldn't. I'm not saying you should. And I'm not saying go out and buy Bitcoin or any of that. This stuff can still break. A model can still break. The framework, whatever you want to call it, can still break. And there is a 4% chance that it is wrong, but it's been 96% accurate up until this point. So let's see what else we got. Sergio says the Fed chair is scheduled to deliver his first appearance during June 16 to 17. Until then, put on your seatbelts. And we have Sinusat Capital coming in. Good evening and morning, y'all. Well, good evening and morning to you, Sinusat Capital. Hope all is well in your neck of the woods. Yes, speaking of the Federal Reserve, we do have some things to cover here. So for the week ahead, I hate when it does that. Please don't do that. Oh, there we go. Okay, man, I swear. Finding a good highlighter is like the hardest thing when it comes to like a browser. Anyways, what we have coming up for June 10th, we have CPI. All right, CPI, Consumer Price Index. that will be very interesting to hear. Of course, we're forecasting. Yeah, the median forecast right now is 4.2% year over year. All right, so that will be a big deal. We also have initial jobless claims. You guys saw the jobs data from last week. We crushed it, although I quotations, because honestly, I don't know, man. When it comes to those government numbers, I really think there's some funny business, but whatever, we'll see, right? I trust my government. Core PPI is also coming out next week on Thursday, so these will be numbers that we cover. And then that's that until next week when we have the Fed probably talking. Let's see. I don't see. Oh, here it is. Yeah. So June 17th. And of course, we already know that we're not going to get an interest rate cut, right? I'm pretty sure we all know and have come to that conclusion already. And we've already accepted it, as hard as it is, that we are not getting a rate cut. But seems like the market is pricing in a rate hike. I hate to be that guy, but there's, on Polymarket, there's a 61% chance that by December we get a rate hike. And where are they pulling this data from? The good old CME Group Fed Watch tool. Okay, because in December there's a 46% chance that we're going to get a rate hike. This number has been creeping up, and based on this next FOMC meeting and whatever Kevin Warsh has to say. Maybe he's going to revamp the Fed like he said in his last press conference. We'll see. That will really at least give us some insight on how he is looking at inflation, how he wants to account for inflation, and also accounting for the Fed rate hikes, or maybe they stay steady, because really it doesn't matter what happens, left or right, up or down. The government is going to print money regardless. Sorry, I was on mute. Clarity Act news. We do have some news. All right, we do have some news. Not really any new update. We covered it last week. We did cover it last week. The last piece of news was that it reached the Senate floor. Or it's starting to reach the Senate floor. It was on their calendars. So at least that's a good sign that the Clarity Act is moving forward. But we do have a short clip that I want us to take a look at, and it's coming from BM&R Bulls. All right. So this is Brian Armstrong responding to Jamie Dimon. We covered that clip where Jamie Dimon basically called Brian Armstrong full of something. And, I think Brian Armstrong's reply was a class act. So let's listen in on what he had to say.
I want to get right into it because you are really shaking up this town here. You're at the center of this big fight happening in Washington that could determine the future of cryptocurrency in this country, and really the future of banking in a way. It's put you at odds with traditional banks like JP Morgan, whose CEO Jamie Dimon recently called you, quote, full of shit. I am quoting there.
It will be fought. This will not be, no one's going to bow down to this guy, okay, or that company. And but he's the only one. Yeah. And he's spending hundreds of millions of dollars in Washington this thing.
Okay? He said he's representing the whole industry.
Full of shit.
How do you respond to him?
Well, I've got a lot of respect for Jamie Dimon, so it was kind of sad to hear that. JP Morgan's a great company. He's put up incredible numbers there. I feel like I've learned a lot from him as a CEO. And ultimately, this isn't really about Jamie Dimon or me, even though people like to focus on that. It's just about how we get clear rules in America so that this industry can get built here and benefit everyone. I think that would be good for American consumers. I think it'd be good for the banks. There's a whole set of new provisions and benefits that banks get in there in this draft legislation. It'd be great for crypto companies as well. Most importantly, it's good for America. So hopefully we can get past the absolutisms and just see if we can get this bill over the finish line.
And I hear your point on the policy piece. I think one of the reasons this has drawn so much attention is just because it's not very often that you hear one of the biggest CEOs in America talk like that about somebody else. I wonder why you think that you've sort of drawn so much personal animosity from Dimon, especially, as you say, when you have so much respect for him.
Yeah, honestly, I'm like a little perplexed by that. I think in general, when people communicate through the media, nuance gets lost. Same thing with social media.
There's not a ton of nuance and full of shit, I have to say.
I agree. I mean, yeah, I think it's better just in general to get in a room and chat one-on-one with people. That usually solves it. I've had opportunities to do that with Jamie and other people on his team who are great in the past. And so, yeah, I don't know exactly what that's all about. Like crypto, you have to remember, is the most bipartisan issue right now in DC, in my view. And just there's a lot of people on both sides of the aisle, not to mention 50 million Americans who've used crypto. There's about 3 million advocates who signed up to stand with crypto.org who wanted to elect pro-crypto candidates. So there's a big movement behind this of people who just want to see clear rules on the books. And we saw Senators Tillis and also Brooks. I thought they did a really great job of trying to bring both sides together, the bank lobby and the crypto lobby, and say, hey, you guys got to work out a deal. A compromise means that both sides are going to leave feeling a bit unhappy. We didn't love aspects of it, of where it landed. I imagined that they wouldn't either, but I thought we could both live with it. And so at this point, I think the banks got really a lot of what they asked for in that they said they didn't want any rewards paid on idle balances. They got that. They wanted additional rulemaking. They wanted an anti-evasion language. They wanted disclosures on stablecoins, marketing restrictions. They really got all those things. So I think at this point, I'm hoping that we can move forward and go with what the Senate Banking Committee drafted as a compromise.
I do have to.
That's the end of that. But yeah, I think the banks are scared about this bill, obviously. I mean, they wouldn't be fighting it this hard. Crypto exchanges are definitely coming for their money. The whole thing was about stable coins and staking, right? Getting an interest. And the biggest problem for banks, they were fearing, was going to be from customers basically taking out all their money and moving it over to someone like Coinbase, where they could just earn a higher yield on their money without staking a stable coin. But now the language in there is that they not only do they have to stake it, but they can also earn rewards on, the credit cards and things like that. It has to be transaction based in order for people to earn any type of a staking yield on their stable coins. That was really the big fight, the big hoopla from the banks. So we'll see how this continues. Jamie Dimon, of course, I like Jamie Dimon as well. I like his, some of his insights that he has provided in the past. But he's definitely going to be fighting tooth and nail to keep this bill from moving forward, and to at least drop the shot that Brian Armstrong, CEO of Coinbase, is funneling millions of dollars into Washington. I mean, the banks have a powerful lobby group themselves, so he needs to not be the pot calling the kettle black here. Anyways, let's move on from that. That is our Clarity News update for anyone who was interested. One thing I did want to bring up, and that is the index, the S&P 500 seasonality index. We covered this a lot in my previous videos. Like pretty much it was a guiding light last year when everything was selling off. And this year we see that we're in June, and June has typically been a down month. So expect more volatility ahead. Again, that is from the fund managers, doing their portfolios, doing a lot of rebalancing, selling their winners, getting ready for the next quarter. So I suspect that is what we're going to be seeing and feeling this year. I don't think it'll be any different. But again, is this a bear market? Is this a sell-off? What is this? Really, it's probably just normal ebbs and flows. There is, at least I haven't found any real actual bad news that would drive the markets down. So this is simply just a healthy correction, even though it sucks to go through a correction, right? It is what they say is what it is. Let's see what else we got. So Bitcoin, let's see. A little Molan Lob for anyone who's interested in what that means. I think that is pretty much it, from me, as far as, kind of the things I was looking at and kind of the things I was covering. I'm open up to anyone who wants to chat. Again, if you guys have anything, put it in the chat, any ETFs you guys want to cover or take a look at. But I really don't have a whole lot for today. And we've only been on live for about 30 minutes. So let's see. So we have from Sergio, Eugene, is there any particular stock you recommend for options trading right now? I don't do options, so I couldn't recommend something for options trading. Unfortunately, I'm sorry to have to answer it that way, but yeah, I don't do any options myself. So I couldn't really offer a recommendation. Let's see what else we got in here. Okay, let's see if we got any breaking news. We can go back and check our futures and see what's going on there. Whoops. So Nasdaq is still up quite a bit. We'll see if we can hold it till the market open. Gold is starting to trend down. That's always a good sign. Crypto, all right, Bitcoin is still holding. Let's see. So there was some news that Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang confirms SK Hynix will remain Nvidia's largest partner, with annual procurement already in the billions and set to grow substantially under a multi-year deal with extension options. And that is coming from First Squawk. So is anyone investing in Nvidia or the DRAM ETF? I'm actually surprised that they're not going to be using any Micron. So I was actually kind of surprised by that. Shout out to the 53 viewers on X. Thank you guys for joining me for this stream. And shout out to the 49 or close to 50 viewers on YouTube between the two channels. So appreciate you guys joining me for this Sunday stream. Let's see what else we got. Let's see. We kind of already covered the Kospi index. Let's see. Just some more news from the Middle East that we didn't already cover. Let's see. Wait, what? Oh, no, that's already been announced. Well, I got to admit, ladies and gentlemen, today is a really, really slow day. The weekend was kind of late in the news, aside from Bitcoin doing its thing. I'm not even sure what to talk about. Let's see if I can find something to keep the stream going, keep the edutainment going. Let's see. I don't know. Is there any new ETFs we could take a look at? Let's see. Let's check out stock analysis. New launches. We'll see if anything is here. Crude just dropped. Maybe there's some good news coming out. Well, so far, we're still tracking that it's climbing. So we'll see. Talk to us about coffee. Well, coffee is down right now, so that's good. I actually have to buy some coffee today. Thanks for the reminder, because I am all out of coffee. From Watch It All Fall, thoughts on the S&P 500 not changing the rules for SpaceX? That is an excellent point. Let's bring that up. S&P 500. Yeah, there was an article that came out, and we saw it over the weekend. That was announced by was it ARS Technica. And shout out to Citizen of the Year for posting this. But yeah, he was at least as far as I know, he was the first one to call this out. But yeah, the S&P 500 will not be adding SpaceX, OpenAI, or Anthropic on launch. Not like the Nasdaq. I'm actually pretty happy about this because, again, there's an idea that there's going to be this massive run from investors once the unlock happens, and that's gonna be a rolling unlock, right? It's gonna be like what, 6 months, 8 months, and 12, I think. But there's gonna be this rolling unlock from these investors that are currently in SpaceX, and they've been in SpaceX since about 2002, right? We can take a quick look to get some ideas. Let's see. What were the funding rounds for SpaceX since the beginning? Because I think A16Z, which is Andreessen Horowitz, was in this. Yeah, see, 2002. You're gonna have all of these investors from all of these Series Ds, Series A's, Series B's, all the way up to E and F, all the way up to G, right? They're going to want to get their money out. Like, yeah, Founders Fund, that's Peter Thiel's fund in there. And they're definitely going to want to get their money out. They've been in SpaceX for almost 2 decades. They're definitely going to want their money out. And you got to think when SpaceX launches, how much more their investment has grown since then, right? I don't know what SpaceX's initial market cap was or whatever, but you got to think once that simple 100 million could be probably worth a couple billion, more than a couple billion at this point, and they're going to be looking for the door. The Series B from 2005, 50 million, that could be worth a bunch at this point. 2006, 278 million. So you're gonna have all these investors that are going to be looking for the door once SpaceX hits the floor and is added to like the Qs, and all those indexes that follow the Qs, and then you're going to have the S&P 500. But I think this is a good move by the S&P. They have a committee. They're more strict than the Nasdaq is, so they're more strict. So this is a good thing. Let's see. There was something in here. Where is it? The proposed changes, including shortening the seasoning periods for new IPOs from 12 months to 6, waiving the investable weight factor requirement for mega cap companies to at least 10%. Yeah, this is the S&P Dow Jones indices. Held a month-long consultation to consider changing or waiving several main requirements for the so-called mega cap companies. So that's good that they didn't change them and that they're sticking to their guns. So we might see the triple Qs have an amazing outperformance of the S&P 500 in the short term. With obviously with SpaceX, OpenAI, and Anthropic being added later this year. So absolutely incredible. But yeah, again, these are all the funds that have invested into SpaceX up until this point. And you got to imagine they want their money out. We have from In Love with Nature, huge. Any comments on Fitz? Seems pretty stable. Yes, we covered Fitz in a previous stream. Fitz from X Funds, and I gotta say, anything from X Funds has been really good so far. That's not an endorsement, but yes, if you look at the there's a video from the cover caller, Max Convexity. Check out his channel. Let me see if I can pull it up real fast. Let's see, YouTube. But anyways, yeah, David Nicholas is a big fan of Fitzgerald, and this is his namesake ETF, and it's launched by X Funds. And I looking at the holdings earlier when we did cover it, I think this is kind of a no-brainer. It has a lot of the names that we all know and love. Nvidia, you're gonna have Palantir in here, Apple, JP Morgan, Tesla, IonQ, which is cool that they added that, because IonQ's at this moment seems to be the market leader for the quantum names. I don't know, Sergio, if you have a difference of opinion. Let me know if that is the fact or not. AMD's in here. You have CrowdStrike. We've covered cybersecurity, and CrowdStrike is one of the market leaders there. Chevron Corp for oil, and then you have Eli Lilly, which is honestly starting to pop up. Jordy Visser, definitely check him out on YouTube. But he's been talking up Eli Lilly, honestly, and the whole point behind Eli Lilly is that they're using AI to solve basically real problems, and one of the biggest tailwinds that Eli Lilly has, and I don't know a whole lot about this company. I know it's a pharmaceutical company, but one of the big things that they have is the GLP-1s, right? The things that can help people lose weight. So the people who are diabetic or insulin sensitive or whatever, they have the GLP-1 that's coming. You guys might know that as Ozempic. But there's several different variations of GLP-1 that are coming to market. Usually you'd have to stab yourself in the stomach for that, but they're also coming out with I think a pill version of this, that's currently being offered by someone else. But yeah, this is a growth ETF. I mean, through and through, this is a growth ETF. It's a thematic growth ETF, and it's playing on certain themes, right? And they explain it in here as well. positioned to benefit from long-term structural changes taking place over multi-year and multi-decade time horizons that may reshape economic activity, competitive dynamics, and corporate profitability. So that's how they invest. Let me see if I could pull him up, max convexity. Yeah, because again, I think I think this interview was really well done. You guys can't see that. There we go. Now you guys can see that. I think this video was really well done. And again, shout out to Max Convexity for the amazing content that he pumps out. But there was a video. I don't know if it was a live or if it was a video. It was probably a video. Let me go back. Man, this dude does not. He streams every single day. Let's see. I mean, shout out for streaming every single day. It is not easy to stream every single day. Damn, where is it? There's a video he did with David Nicholas. I'm having trouble finding it. Let's see. Maybe if I just put in X funds. Yeah, it's this one right here. Live stream with David Nicholas of X Funds. I recommend people check that out. It's a great video. He did an excellent job. And David Nicholas, I think, talks about, it might be this, it's one of these two. It's one of these two, but he talks about X Funds and he talks about FITS and why he created that FITS ETF. You guys can check out Fitzgerald himself. He has a whole website and a newsletter and everything else. So anyways, that is X Funds FITS. And I think it is a decent holding. Kind of an expensive expense ratio. I'm not going to lie, though. I think that's my only critique of this because, I mean, you can get other funds that have all of these names in there, right? And you guys could, download the holdings and check them all out. But, I mean, for these, I mean, I don't know if I'd pay a 75% expense ratio for this. And not only that, there's other funds that already have this. So I would have like, crazy amounts of overlap. All right, let me get back to the comments. Yes, we covered that on Friday, but yes, as a reminder, Marvell is going into the S&P 500, so that's extremely bullish for Marvell. Congrats to any Marvell holders out there. I'm liking the thesis behind investing in Marvell. They're not just a semiconductor name like Broadcom, where they're just creating, custom chips. Now they're getting into the CPO, the co-packaged optics, and they're getting into, the fiber optic game or the photonics game. So I think Marvell's an interesting play. I hope we drop a little lower. I would like to initiate a position in Marvell. If not, and I miss it, oh well, it is what it is. But Marvell getting added to the S&P 500, excellent. We gotta wait for the rebalance, and then we'll probably see Marvell, start to climb as those passive funds, start to reach it. Watch It All Fall says, I was happy about it. Sergio says, I think everyone is trying to recover from Friday and hoping for the best on Monday. I think so. I think a lot of people are, and myself included. That was a pretty wicked sell-off. Oh no! Oh no! Here we go. We are heading lower, ladies and gentlemen. We are heading lower. Where's oil at? Okay, oil is still in the green. Look at gold, lazy metal, not doing anything. I'm probably gonna get stop lossed out of my gold position. Let's see. Yes, I did just share your post, and I did give you credit as well. Citizen of the Year, you guys should check him out. He also does a lot of good content. He came out with one for SpaceX. I really enjoyed it. And he's a big furry fan, as you guys can tell from his profile pic. Watch It All Fall says, no, Kramer had a great breakdown of the lockout periods. It's over the next 2 years. Oh, okay. All right. Well, yeah, I keep reading different articles. Some are saying it's like 6 months, and then they'll start, it's like rolling lockout periods. So if excuse me, if SpaceX reaches certain milestones, then the lockup period will open for investors. I don't know. It was like a hodgepodge, and then Elon Musk came out with another update, or there was another update to the prospectus. I didn't keep up with it all, to be honest. I mean, I'm not investing in SpaceX, and I see that the S&P Standard & Poor's also seeing that could be a big risk to their own index to just include it. So I mean, that was enough for me. We have Chi Hang saying jolly good morning. Well, jolly good morning to you. Sergio says Peter Thiel will sell and buy Argentina with all that cash. Yeah. Yeah, he's going to get his founders fund money out of that for sure. What else we got? INFQ for quantum. INFQ. I feel like I've seen that before. I think you posted it before. Is that a stock or an ETF? Okay. So INFQ for quantum. You guys heard it here, folks, from Padre, aka Victor. All right. He's in the community. He's always putting out some very interesting tickers. Of course, this is not an endorsement to buy it. Do your own research, but we have covered a lot of his picks in the past, and this one looks interesting. Down 5%. Yeah, sold off with everything. So this is what, a small cap? Okay, so it's above. So it's a mid cap. It's above 1 billion. So maybe this is early. And this is what? This just came out February? Wow. Okay, so this just launched in February. Interesting. And what do we have about this stock? Okay, we don't know really anything about the stock. INFQ. Let's see if we can get about. Okay, nothing there. INFQ. All right. So Sergio says IonQ is my preferred choice in the quantum for single stocks. IonQ can produce end-to-end full stack quantum products in the US. The only one that can say that right now. That's actually a really big deal. Again, reshoring production, the government is incentivizing all these companies to basically produce in the US, and not outsource it to Asia. So that's good. That's excellent. In Love with Nature says, huge thanks, man. Appreciate your thoughts. I am a pharma guy and very bullish on Eli Lilly. I was not as bullish on Eli Lilly because I don't follow the stock. I don't follow the name. But I was again watching another YouTuber. He's a researcher. He used to run a hedge fund himself. Jordy Visser is the name. I keep mentioning that, but he was kind of sharing his thoughts on Anthony Pompliano's show about Eli Lilly, and it kind of sparked my interest. So I might throw a couple bucks into Eli Lilly myself. And then we have from Overseer Prime saying GLP-1 has been proven to help with sleep apnea as well as blood pressure. Yes, that is also true. So this. I don't want to call it a miracle drug. I did a little bit of research into GLP-1 myself, and because I wanted to know what is all the rage with it. And yes, it has a ton of benefits. I mean, obesity is a problem, and this could be a solution. Of course, a person still needs to develop the good habits, not eating a bunch of fried, buckets of fried chicken, obviously, or pounds of white rice. So they need to develop still the good habits. But this, does drop, a lot of does help people drop weight. It does control hunger very well. And, with all the bad problems that come from overeating, if we've seen things like the carnivore diet, this is personal experience because I was on the carnivore diet at one point, and I did it for, I think, strict for like 6 months, and I did lose a ton of weight, and I did see a lot of improvement in just, my own personal health. But the problem with things like that, the problems with just society in general, and this is getting way off topic, is that we have an overabundance of food, right? Everything is like instant. You have instant ramen. Shout out to Sergio. You have instant rice. You can order food right off Uber Eats or whatever. There's restaurants in every which direction. You have a lot of refined sugars, a lot of refined food, a lot of fast food. Excuse me. That right there is the problem. And GLP-1 helps kind of control those urges to just eat, because people don't know when they're actually hungry. They just eat because that's just what they're used to doing, I guess. Like when I was on the carnivore diet, I was doing like one meal a day, and it was just, steak, eggs, some cheese or whatever. Right. And I wouldn't be hungry. There were days where I forgot to eat. And that's just your body like telling you that you're not hungry. You don't need to eat. But when you start throwing in all this fast food, refined carbs, all this sugar, all this other crap, your body doesn't know how to tell the difference. And it just always assumes you're hungry, right? And you build up bad habits by snacking, having a bag of chips, et cetera, et cetera. This is not a health show. I know this is a stock investing channel, but you know, the GLP-1 does have definitely does have some good results. So people are sleeping better because, you know, eating unhealthy affects your sleep, and blood pressure for sure. 100% blood pressure, because you're not eating a bunch of crap. And obviously you got to stay hydrated through this whole thing. So anyways, enough of that. All right. Enough of that. Again, I just do a lot. I always read a bunch of crap, and you know, from time to time I'll actually experiment. So like I did carnivore for a while. I did the keto diet for a while. So, you know, but that is hard to do. It is hard to keep up. I'm not going to lie. Like, it is really hard to keep up. At some point, you're going to miss fruits. You're going to miss vegetables. You know, I love like eating steak every day, fish, you know, eggs every day, you know, a little bit of cheese. It starts to get boring. So it starts to get really boring. Oh, that's funny. You know, it's a slow weekend when Skeptic can't even create a new infographic. Yeah, Skeptic is in Chicago, I believe, having the time of his life and just enjoying whatever Chicago has to offer. We have from Maltafi. Hey, what's up? And he also says, where do you see the market going this week with the IPOs? We'll probably have a pump and dump. Is my honest answer. Going back, actually, good question. Going back, we ran a poll. And that poll was, will the markets pump this week? And 56% of you said, yes, this was a flash crash, pump it. All right. 37% of you said, nope, more correcting coming. And then 7% of you yawn in index investor. So I'm going to go ahead and end that poll. I think we're going to have a pump and then a dump, right? Once SpaceX comes out, that's at least where I'm going with. That's what I'm expecting. Actually, they're expected to IPO what, on the 11th? Yeah, so that Thursday is when it should drop. Friday is typically a sell-off day, so I don't know. I think we're going to end the week on red. And again, I think there's still more correction coming, as we obviously seen with Kospi. Let's take a look and see what they're doing right now. Right there, ladies and gentlemen. And we're seeing it continue to go down. So you have the memory trade that's completely being run by retail right now. And you know, these institutions, they can't have that. So it's probably a good thing that, you know, it's coming down a bit so people can get better entries. Again, DRAM, the DRAM ETF was down a lot. You got to look at DRAM as a very concentrated theme on the semi space, right? Imagine it as like a leveraged SMH or a SOX ETF. But yeah, over the last 5 days, down almost 16%. You know, but it still had an amazing run since its inception. I mean, since inception, it's still up about 100%. It was up 150%. So, I mean, it's still, you know, the story is still there. The theme is still there for DRAM. Let's see what else we got. As someone on the dating apps, I can confirm obesity is a major issue. Talking about GLP-1s and Eli Lilly. Yes. I mean, it's a problem across the board. Everyone is having obesity issues. You know, it is truly something that's impacting humanity. Maybe not humanity. I should say probably impacting like the nations that have food security, right? Some of us have way too much food security. When you had burgers at one point as $1, right? I mean, that is pretty crazy. What about the ramen diet? Kimchi is a vegetable. That's nice. Yeah. Those little tiny pieces in the ramen packet, those vegetables. Yep. That's good. That's good fiber. MJ Bowhunter says too many growth hormones in food in America. Food overseas is much better. I would have to agree on certain things. I noticed that the beef over here is obviously different. They don't have USDA, quality steaks, but they do have beef from New Zealand, and that tastes like mildly different than the steaks that from the steaks in the US. And also the beef is not like it's not like cow beef, I guess. It's like a different type of different type of breed of cow or something. So I do notice like the differences out here. So yeah, but yes, I mean we got to pump up, we got to pump up and fatten our livestock in America. Let's see. Oh my God, this whole this conversation is turning into a health thing. Let's see. We don't know what the Anthropic ticker is yet, but we do know SpaceX. It's SPCX. All right, SPCX. Skeptic is in Chicago, but I think he's wrapping up his trip. So the 12th is for SpaceX. Okay, so yeah, I definitely think we'll have a pump. If SpaceX is launching on the 12th, we'll probably have a pump and then a sell-off or something on Monday. I don't know. I really don't. I can't see this IPO staying high for long. I think it's gonna be a lot of people that are gonna swing trade it, get it on the IPO, run it up some crazy amount, and then get out. Boring? This quant is happy to just have food. Feed your local quant. That's right. All right. Padre, aka Victor, will quant for food. This man's job's been replaced by AI. Not really. He's never had a job. He's just been stock picking his entire life. So yes, he will quant for food. He will drop tickers for food. Let's see. OZEM at Roundhill or Lilly Direct. Does Roundhill have a Lilly? I didn't think they did. Oh, you're talking about the ETF. Yes, I forgot all about that. What do they call it? GLP? Yeah, I forgot all about this. Yeah, here are the names that are all like trying to get to the GLP stuff. You have Eli Lilly, Novo Nordisk, Pfizer. Those are the names that I know of. 26 Holdings, but it looks like they have other ones in here. So they have some from looks like China, Japan. This might be South Korea. Yeah, I mean, weight loss is a multi-billion-dollar industry. I mean, you guys can go to like what is it? You guys can go to a freaking what do they call it over there? A GNC or whatever in America. You find them at the malls or even on Amazon. I mean, you put in fat loss, you're gonna get like hundreds of views, right? Hundreds of items, and really all they are it's just caffeine pills. Caffeine pills with some type of green tea extract, right? That's what it mostly is. A lot of it is nonsense. It doesn't really work. But Ozempic, what it does, and GLP-1s, what they do is control the hunger receptors of the body. So then you feel less hungry, which is that's the problem. That's how people cause weight or achieve weight loss. But the other thing that it does as well, and I was researching GLP-1s. I think Ozempic right now has the black mark, as it were. Because there's a paper done that it's causing brittle bones. People are having more injuries when it comes to their joints. But that really, the idea is, or at least the thought is that they're not eating enough. They're not including enough calcium in their diet, right? They're like they normally would because they're not eating, right? They barely eat anything. So that is you might see that, you might hear about that. I did read a little bit on that article, and it was basically explaining that Ozempic right now has the black mark for that. But anyways, yes. Getting back to this Ozem at Roundhill or Lilly Direct, I don't know. I would probably go with Eli Lilly. Listening to Jordy Visser talk about it, doing a little more research into GLP-1s, and again looking at the broader thesis here. Again, weight loss is a multi-billion-dollar industry, hundreds of billions of dollars. You can just look at the health market and all the protein shakes and all the other crap that they have in there. This I think is going to be a no-brainer for the next wave of like actual like health products. So MJ Bohner says growth hormones is the wrong words, but it's late and I'm having a brain fart. It's all good, MJ Bohner. Appreciate you all, appreciate you either way. Let's see. Altafia says, please look up the obesity rate per country. We need to see the numbers. Yeah, this whole stream turned into a health stream. All right, health and wealth. All right, health is wealth. So let's see. Obesity numbers in the US. We'll just see what it is. Just curious. Look at that. The US adult obesity rate stands at approximately 40 to 42% of the population, affecting over 100 million adults. More than 72% of adult population is considered overweight, and childhood obesity has reached record highs of 21% among youths 2 to 19. See, but yeah, the BMI thing, I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. We had that standard in the military. You had to be a certain BMI. I don't know if I 100% agree with the BMI stuff, because you can be very muscular and still fail from a BMI standard. So I don't know. I don't know about that. But anyways, it is saying that, yes, a lot of people are overweight. And, obesity is the number one cause, I suppose, of a lot of these diseases and things that people have. Not basing that on any fact, right? This is bro science at this point. But yes, I've heard that being said, when it comes to high blood pressure, when it comes to heart attacks, when it comes to, freaking high blood pressure, yada, yada, yada. It's all about obesity. They link it to obesity, and they link it to the food that we eat. So, wow. Interesting. Padre says, this quant is just happy to have food. Feed your local quant. Chihang says grass-fed beef. Yep. Tastes totally different. How it made. Rest in peace, Ada. Charles is trash. I'm not sure I get the reference. Ada, Charles Schwab? Oh, maybe, I don't know. Maybe that's what you mean? Yeah, we are still talking about obesity. Yep. I know. This is supposed to be a freaking finance channel. Now do healthcare costs. All right. You know what? Whatever. Let's do it. Why not? What is the average healthcare cost in USA? Holy hell. The average healthcare expenditure in the USA is roughly $14,000 per person, with the average annual health insurance premiums costing almost $9,000 for individuals and $25,000 for families. Bro, see, this is absolutely horrible. This is horrible. I mean, if you're someone who's barely making minimum wage, federal minimum wage at that, how the hell can you afford this? How the hell can you afford this? And then, this is why there's a flux of people leaving the United States and moving to cheaper, low cost of living areas in the United States with better healthcare, cheaper healthcare, or like quality healthcare. That is crazy. I mean, shoot, this is someone's freaking like salary for the year. 25,000 or even 14,000. That's someone's salary. That's wild. And this is, this is why people have to freaking get their asset game up, invest in assets. I hate to bring this back to investing, but I mean, it's the truth. If you're not investing for the future and growing your money and growing your skill set to, get better paying jobs and, better, chances of having a better retirement on top of taking care of your body, you're going to be in perpetual slavery. You're just going to keep paying to live. This is disgusting. Okay. Let's see what else we got. Oh, Cardano is what you mentioned. Let's see. Let's go back to futures and check out our futures. Check out our future. Okay. All right. Still going up. Okay. So Cardano. Okay. So ADA. All right. I see what you mean. I see what you meant. That's why they want you sick. There's no money in cures. Yeah. And it kind of makes sense why this whole GLP-1 thing is such a big deal now that you mention it. Because GLP-1s, if you were to lose obesity, you'd solve a ton of problems, like a lot of problems. I'm not saying it's the end all be all, right? There's still a lot of things, but you still have, cancer, sickness, a lot of health issues come from obesity. So are we having this conversation? I'm stuck in my gut. Bro, I remember when I couldn't fit into my jeans like some years ago, and I was like, I'm doing the carnivore diet. Like, screw it. Like, I need to lose a lot of weight. Like, jeans were getting hard to put on. That's when I knew I let myself go. That was horrible. Somebody's making money. Yeah. And here's the crappy thing as far as I know it. These GLP-1s, they cost a lot of money. Like, they're not exactly affordable either. So kind of crazy stuff there. We have from Altafi, why don't you add more of the weeklies? Because I don't want any more high yield stuff in my portfolio. That's pretty much it. Add more to them and do growth stocks, do a mix of both. Since you live off dividend growth in your weeklies and growth. Yeah, I don't want to add more to them. I am focusing more on growth assets, things like Bitcoin, things like a simple index, and I'll live off that, right? Again, the portfolio helps fund, my lifestyle, but it's not the only thing that I own that funds my portfolio or funds my lifestyle. I also own real estate. So that is also, I take that into consideration as well. Let's see. Citizen of the Year says, usually should I take a sabbatical at 32 in 2.5 years? Why not? Why not? If you can do it, if you can afford it, why not? I had this conversation with a friend, and because he was asking, because he wants to quit his job as well, and he's saying that it's so risky. What if it doesn't work out? Blah blah blah. Right? And these are all real risks. These are all real things. But here's what I told him. I said, look, you'll be able to get a job. The risk is you take a sabbatical, as long as you plan it correctly. Let's say you plan for at least a year and you save up enough funds for that. You still have your investment portfolio. You still have your investments doing their things, right? But you save up enough money. Let's say you wanted to do trading, right? So you have a whole other bucket for trading, but you have this money, this dry powder ready for you. So you can have a year and test the waters, experiment, try something else, right? Try doing trading, try doing options, cover calls, whatever you want, right? Try it. The worst case scenario, as long as you don't die, the worst case scenario is you end up going back to the United States and you work a job, right? That's the worst case scenario. As long as you don't blow up your portfolio and YOLO into something like, YOLO into something like Ulti, right? As long as you don't die, you still have the opportunity to rebuild. And at least you tried. The upside, right? The upside is, what if something works out? What if you find something that works for you and you're able to stay away from working a W-2, whether that's starting your own business, learning how to trade, do some types of options, whatever, right? That's the upside. People think too much about the risk and they never really think about the upside. But I get it. Like, a job is ultra secure. You get a weekly paycheck. You have a routine. You don't have to think for yourself. Really, it's just a job. You show up, you do your work, you go home, right? When you're living on your own and you're trying to hustle and make money, like every day, like you gotta be on Johnny on the spot. You have to find ways to generate income. And the beauty of that is it kind of kicks you in the butt, right? Like, everything matters. Every dollar matters. You kind of force yourself out of comfort and force yourself into a level of uncomfortable unknowns, because you don't know what tomorrow or the next 6 months or the next year is going to hold for you. So you get really good at being comfortable in the unknown, right? I know that sounds really cheesy and kind of lame, but for me personally, I just knew I had enough of the W-2. I just knew I had enough. I was at a point in my own health where I was like, this does not make any sense. And I decided, I had enough left. I had no backup plan. I was like, I'm just going to figure crap out. And here I am today streaming on YouTube, right? With, still investing. I haven't blew up my port yet, right? I don't know, things, are working out. I've been out of a job since August of 2024, and I've been very happy. I am very happy being unemployed. I am happy to add to the job list, or whatever the statistics from the BLS, right? So those are just really my thoughts. I can't say you should or shouldn't. I think you should sit down with a pen and paper, list out the pros, list out the cons, and list out, what your ideal day looks like if you were to quit, and you figure it out from there. I mean, just keep notes. So I hope that answers that as best I can. That's what they said to everyone who learned to code. Yeah. I mean, everyone, see, now you have AI that can do all your coding, but like entrepreneurship is not easy. Entrepreneurship is absolutely not easy. Betting on yourself is not easy. You have to really, really believe in yourself. You're going to have days where things go awfully wrong and you question everything. You question your decision making. There was a point, for me where I was, I think 8 months in, and I was like, I think I need to go back to a job. I'm not used to not being, not having a routine, not seeing results. And then just something clicked and it started working. And, again, here I am. Going back to GLPs, obesity has tripled in the last 50 years. Yep. That is true. Yeah, the insurance companies. Yep. Look at that right there. Making money off of people's misery. That's one insurance. Here's another insurance, financial insurance. Here's more insurance, life insurance. Yeah, the whole insurance sector looks like it's been kind of pumping. Yeah, property and casualty. I like flip-flops, easy to expand. Let's see what else we got. I don't know anything about ADX. Please, no, please, I'm begging you. Do not go all in on freaking Alti, as we just learned, all right? Ladies and gentlemen, we just learned this, all right? Don't do that. Do not go all in, or the market will come back to humble you. We put in, okay, I know what that is. Ivermectin, I know what that is. On my mom with lung cancer for 7 years. Now it's gone. They tried hard to suppress it. First off, congratulations, and I'm glad that worked out for you. I don't know what else to say, but I'm glad that worked out for you and worked out for your mother. Because yeah, I know people that have went through stuff like that. It's heartbreaking. Absolutely heartbreaking. So I'm happy to see that worked out for you. Are these weekly pairs ever going to vanish? Should we be worried? The answer is no. They'll probably reverse split them. They'll probably just, I don't know, they'll reverse split them, I guess. I'm not worried. These are money makers for Round Hill. Now, if you see the AUM drop, if you start to see the AUM drop for them, that would be a cause for concern. We could take a look and just look at some of the usual suspects. We're going to take a look at MSTW because that is one that is, probably on top of everyone's mind. And I mean, still, they have close to almost 50 million in assets. When they start getting closer to the 1 and 2 million, that's when funds start to get liquidated. But I think, that these weekly pays from Round Hill, they're still doing pretty well on AUM. So at least for me, again, MSTW, PLTW, let's see what the AUM is here. See 128 million. So I'm not worried at all there. I mean, let's look at the big one, right? WPay or top W now. Look, 169 million. Nice. 69. Nice. Okay. We also have what? Robinhood's another one. 125 million. I can't see them liquidating this because I can see them liquidating Baba. Let's see. Yep. Right there. Alibaba, I think, is going to get liquidated. I think they'll stop this one. I could also see the Berkshire one probably getting liquidated. No, they're holding on. Okay, so I see Baba getting liquidated in the not too distant future. UNH, this one I'm gonna say people are probably investing in this one. I think this has demand. Not really. Okay, so 4.7. This one probably on the cusp of getting liquidated. Netflix, I think this one has pretty decent demand. 13 million. Okay, so this one's kind of hovering in the cautionary area. AVGW is probably the moneymaker right now. 47 million. Let's see, ARM. 16 million. So, yeah, I don't know if they're going to get rid of them, but I could only see, like I said, I could see them getting rid of Baba. For sure, Baba. But let's look at like a Mag 7 company like Google. 89 million. We could look at, I think Costco is probably doing really well. 12 million. So, sort of. Tesla. 97 million. So, there you guys have it. I know GDXW has been all the rage. Let's see. 72 million. Coasty dividends. Semper Paratus. There we go. I forgot the core values, man. It's been so long. Honor, courage, commitment is the Navy's. I forget what I think it's what is it? Honor, respect, and integrity, I think, for the Coast Guard. So Semper Paratus. All right. Let's see. So market mental health is a massively undiscussed topic, especially for new investors. Yes, that is true. That is absolutely true, man. The way this market has been going, I've definitely been swinging with it. I think it was, so the reason why I talked about the power law for Bitcoin on that one stream, I think it was on Wednesday or maybe Thursday. And why I brought it up was because I was so down in the shitter with Bitcoin. And I was like, man, I'm questioning my research. I'm questioning, my decision making. I'm like, why did I invest in Bitcoin? I should stop investing in Bitcoin. You start to get those questions, right? But looking through my notes, going back into kind of all the things I posted, going back into the Discord and looking at all the links I posted, I'm like, you know what? I feel better. You know what? This is an opportunity to buy. But no one loves when things go down and it just makes you scared, right? You start paper handing. Fortunately, I have not sold my Bitcoin, but yes, market mental health is definitely a thing. I can only imagine traders must go through some crazy emotional swings. They're either on their highs or on their real bad lows. Cause I mean, you got traders that get wiped out. Let's see. I guess I am worried about the opportunity cost. That's probably a prime time or a prime year of my earning potential, but is also a prime year of being young. Yes. I mean, that's, you gotta kind of weigh those things together. I don't know. Opportunity cost. I don't know. Like I said, I take risks. I'm a risk taker, which is funny that I'm not a trader, but I'm a risk taker. I always think that if the worst case happens, I can go back and get a job. If the worst case was to ever happen, I'm personally not worried about it. I don't know. I've gotten this far without a college degree, right? In IT, got up to at least a positional of authority, in a very large organization, again, without a college degree, and made some insane amounts of money that most people would absolutely kill for. But again, I gave it all up. I was just like, I had enough. And I'm like, if this doesn't work out, whatever the hell it is I'm doing, well, I'll just go back to a job, there'll always be a job. May not be the job I want, but there will always be a job. So, and yeah, that's my thought. The story behind how they found the GLP drug is crazy. I don't know that. But that's awesome. If it's a good story, hopefully. But thanks for the comment, Ben McKinney. Former Coastie or Marine? Former Coastie. How did you leave your W-2? Were you investing before you left? Yes, I was investing since 2016. That's when I started my job, working overseas in the Middle East for the Department of Defense. So again, here's the risk, right? The stage was I could leave my current job back in the US, right? Safety, if you go to work, but dude, I was stuck in traffic for like an hour to and from work. That's 2 hours of your life, right? I could get another job, but it was going to be the same crap, right? And I just was not happy where I was. So I was like, you know what? I need a reset. And I had come across overseas contracting at the time. And I was like, you know what? What's the worst case that can happen? Well, I could die because I applied for a job in a war zone, but I've been to a war zone before. I was in Afghanistan. So I was like, I already know the life. I already know the lifestyle, right? Again, worst case is I live like shit. Sorry for the language. I live like shit in a tin can for a year, a couple of years, make a ton of money, right? Save a bunch of money and then learn, I can get additional IT certifications while I'm out there. I can come back to the US and really get a really nice 6-figure job with all the certifications. Well, that 1 year turned into 8, right? I stayed there so long and I was really happy and with the progress and everything else. And, I was able to go to the gym. I was able to get healthy, able to save up a lot of money, paid off all my debts and, college loans, all that other crap, credit cards. And then I started to learn about investing. I didn't even know what the hell a freaking mutual fund was, right? Finance Tube was not a thing back in 2016. There was no Graham Stephan. There was bigger pockets for real estate, but it isn't what it was. It isn't what it is today, right? It was like Finance Tube was not really a thing. People were not sharing their portfolios. So I learned by reading a bunch of books, started investing into the index, started investing into other things. The first stock I picked was Sprint, which was a terrible stock. That's when I learned free advice is free for a reason, because everyone could shout out price targets. Everyone could shout out, tickers and everything else. Doesn't mean it's good, right? So I lost all the money when I bought Sprint, and I started learning how to actually invest. And then I picked up real estate investing, and I the rest is kind of history. Watch It All Fall says, dude, I literally quit a F500, a Fortune 500 company after 10 years. Thought I'd be right back in 3 months. Here we are a year later. Hopefully your spouse makes it work. Your job market is not right, or the job market is not right. Sorry to hear that. That's definitely unfortunate. Yeah, that sucks. Yeah, I don't know. I think they're like, for me personally, I'm not afraid to go find a job. And I don't know. Let's see. Yeah, I'm sorry that happens, dude. I don't know what else to say. I really don't. Anyways, moving on from that, we have I'll top you pull up ELV. This is a health insurance company. I don't want to get into health insurance companies. I'm not a big fan of insurance companies at all. Let's see what we have here. Joseph says, that's why I started my own business. It'll teach you what you're quick. And if you're a hustler, it's great. I make way more now to physically work less, but mentally work more. There we go. We got proof out there in the chat. Love to hear it. See, I love to hear stories like that, me personally. He said oil popped earlier, not dropped, by the way. Companies like Battle, Anna, TPET, etc. So here we go. We got Battle ticker. I forget. This is an oil company based in Texas, if I'm not mistaken. I've never heard of Anna or TPET, but that is awesome. There we go. We got more techer. Oh, look at who we got in here. We have Skeptic in the chat. Are you on your way back from Chicago? Hope you had fun this weekend. Let's see what else we got. How it made you don't participate in any liquidity providing on dexes like Uniswap for pass income. No, I don't do any of the crypto stuff. It's nothing I wanted to get involved with, to be honest. It's nothing I've spent time in. I know a lot of there's some crypto traders out here I've talked to, and I mean, they make some really damn good money. They've invested in projects. They've gotten airdrops. They do really well, right? Just trading. They don't do any courses or any of that stupid crap. And they made it work. But there's this one guy, and I can't remember his name or if he even has a channel. I can't remember it at this moment, but he was talking to me. He was like, he came here from Thailand. He came here from the United States. He was like a health and wellness coach. And then he was like, screw it. He saved up enough money. He had a business. He sold it. And he took all that money, sold his house, sold everything he had, came here, and he just laptop and gym. That was it. He spent 6 to 8 months learning how to trade crypto, like just in it nonstop every single day. He said he lived a very disciplined routine, right? He would wake up, have his breakfast, go to the gym, and then it was a computer and trading all day, right? Going through courses, whatever, going through videos, whatever, right? So he learned all that stuff, and then now he's making like a ton of money. He's making a bunch of money. He's made money from airdropping. He's made money from trading all these coins. I'm sure he's participated in probably the pump and dumps, but he's done very well for himself out here. So again, he bet on himself and he just left and said he'd figure it out. So I'm sorry to hear that, all Toffee. That's never fun. GPUS. There we go. Let's go. No way. I've held this crappy ticker for so long. It better not be up 40%. Are you joking? Are you for real? This thing is up. Okay, I'll have to wait for the pre-market. Bro, I've held this damn thing for so long. GPUS. It's a hyperscale data. They're moving towards a Bitcoin / data center play. That's their pure play. But man, that is crazy. That is crazy if it's up 40%. Look at Chippy. I love that one the most. Yeah, everyone loves Chippy. Devotion to duty. Yes, there we go. It's in honor. Damn, is it? Yeah. I can't remember all the other. Is it honor, integrity, devotion to duty, or honor, respect, devotion to duty? I think it's honor, respect, and devotion to duty. We have the internet. Why don't we just look it up? Coast Guard core values. Honor, respect, and devotion to duty. There we go. Yes, absolutely 100%. Live those core values every single day. We have from How It Made. Trading is the worst. Bad for mental health and relationships. Yeah, all they do is advertise to get everyone to trade. I found an interesting post on X, and this guy was basically going around just exposing all these traders. And he was saying, like, the posts that they put out on X or YouTube, obviously a lot of them are fake. And his point was that you're their portfolio. The subscribers are his or her portfolio, right? That passive income is the portfolio. There's also a lot of traders out there that, again, he was the one exposing them. A lot of traders out there that copy trade other traders. So they'll join and pay other Discords, right? Or for other, private communities. And, let's say it's $200 for a month, right? For these private groups, whatever. They'll take those trades and then they'll advertise them on their X. And, when they're right, they're right. And then they'll say, yeah, I'm offering mine for $200 a month, right? So they'll keep rehashing other people's trades in their community, right? And they'll charge $200. So we've seen that happen, right? That's also a real thing. So, sometimes you gotta see what's behind. You gotta see what's behind the smoke and mirrors. Most of the time, they're just trying to get you to buy something, right? A paywall, some type of course, some type of private community, whatever it is. So I'm not saying it's bad. There are some valuable, trustworthy ones out there, right? There are some trustworthy ones out there. But the 19-year-old in Dubai with his Lamborghini or in Miami penthouse, that's kind of questionable, right? That's kind of questionable. We have from Seriously Mad. I think we go down to 30K this cycle. I don't think so, man. I would disagree, but I know that there's tons and tons of videos coming out now, all calling for 40K Bitcoin, all calling for 50 Bitcoin. So we'll find out. But I don't think we drop below 58K. And every day that goes on, that floor is going to raise. I think in October we'll probably have another shakeout. The final shakeout. And I think that shakeout will probably be back down to the 66 range, maybe 64. So we'll see. Appreciate it. Thank you all, Toffee. Let's see. They purposely not teach us financial literacy in school so we could just pay taxes for the rest of our lives. That is 100% fact. Again, you don't even know what the hell an interest rate is until you get to like college, right? You're signing on loans. You don't even know what these loans are. You just know that you need to sign on them in order to go to school, in order to go to college. And then you find out later you owe this large sum of cash, right? It's really crappy the way our school system is. Well, when I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, I was like, man, our education system is really messed up, because from an early age, you're taught when to go to lunch, you're taught when to be at school, and you're taught when you're off, right? So you build these all the way through. Then when you get to college, you go from needing a hall pass to go to the bathroom in high school to here's college and here's real life, and figure it out, right? And then all of this entire thing just preps you for the job workforce. Be here on time, have your lunch at this time, and you only get this much time off, right? 2 weeks a year if you're lucky. Maybe you'll get a third week for every 5 years that you work there, right? And you only get this much sick time, but don't use too much sick time, because then we'll have to start asking you for doctor's notes, and we might also have to discipline you because you use too much sick time, right? You start running into crap like that. It's mind numbing. It's absolutely thinking about it. I get angry just thinking about the work. I get angry. Anyways, serious. I learned investing through YouTube, like people like you. I appreciate that. I've also learned a lot from watching YouTubers and just watching YouTube in general. I call it YouTube University. I learned so much just by watching YouTube. Watch All Fall says, SEC doesn't care. Trump will pardon him if he made enough money. That is 100% true. I appreciate you. All right. I appreciate you, Sergio. Coast Guard Cyber, an amazing group of people. I've never seen the group Coast Guard Cyber. I wanted to go Intel at one point, and I almost did. I almost made the switch to Intel for both the Coast Guard, and I was about to switch over to the National Guard because I wanted to go the Intel route. But that didn't work out. I ended up making E5. So I was like, you know what? I'll just screw it. I'll just stay in. And then I did my tour. Really, really liked the lifestyle of overseas. Like, really fell in love with how simple life gets. So I was like, you know what? Why don't I just go work over there, right? That's when I learned about contracting and how much money they can make. But they work hard. I mean, you're working 12 hours a day, right? So that's where I learned about IT contracting. This one guy, he was a VMware administrator. He was making upwards of like $250,000 a year, and he worked 8 hours a day. Like, it was ridiculous how much this dude was making. As far as I know, yes. Plus or minus, some things you might have to pass. Well, I have a Discord. Personally, I have a Discord. Link is down below in the description in case anyone wants to know. Shameless plug. Sergio says Coast Guard is no joke. I still remember the movie The Guardian. After people watched The Guardian, they thought all Coast Guardsmen were rescue swimmers. It was actually phenomenal. But yeah, I've had the privilege of seeing some of the rescue swimmers like at some of these naval or Coast Guard stations. And I mean, they really are like, yeah, they're really something special. That movie definitely put the Coast Guard on the map. The other unfortunate thing that put the Coast Guard on the map was Hurricane Katrina and all the amazing work that the Coast Guard had done for Katrina. Let's see. So from Jack to the T's, that's not true. I learned about compounding interest and all the basics multiple times in high school. You could teach everyone but responsible financial practices, and most people would still screw it up. That's also true. That is also true. I think there's habits. Like, I didn't learn about any of this in high school. I personally didn't learn. And I went to a business school, but I took no business courses. It was the absolute, like, yeah, epitome of a public school system. But anyways, your experience, just like the military, your experience will vary. So, I did not learn about like finance anything throughout school. like how to properly budget. I didn't learn about the stock market. I didn't learn about how to save or any of this stuff. There was a class I think I was a part of, if I remember. It was like entrepreneurship, but it was like, I mean, it was a class like about nothing. It was like textbook stuff about entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship, you're not going to learn in a classroom. Like, you just learn by doing. I mean, that's what Gary Vee says, and that's what I know from personal experience. You just learn by doing. Let's see. As a school teacher here, I can testify to this. I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad 2 and never finished it. Yeah, that was my favorite book. That's what started it all for me, really. I see your comment. Watch it all fall. Let's see. I'll post a YouTube video on what you just talked about, educational system, etc., in the Discord. Sergio says, why did you go Intel? You missed a chance to be in my class. Well, I was too stupid, apparently. So, yeah, my ASVAB score was not high enough, but I ended up completing a certificate from AMU, American Military University, which is an online school for intelligence. And I wanted to go the Intel route. So I was able to do it through the Army, but not through the Coast Guard. The Coast Guard wanted my score to be up much higher, even though like I was going to school for Intel at the time. I was trying to do a double degree. I was going to get one on political science, I think, at the time, and one on Intel. But that didn't work out. So is what it is. I think a lot of people learned about investing through during COVID because everyone was getting the stimmies. Everyone was getting that free money and dropping it into Robinhood and YOLOing it, buying Bitcoin. So yeah. And yeah, like I would talk about investing, amongst, friends and family, coworkers, etc. And you just get the deer in the headlight look, like, okay, like, what is this? don't what, I don't know what this S&P 500 is. It sounds stupid, but is what it is. Let's see. Skeptic says, only thing I learned about, I'm guessing, or only thing I learned about saving and balancing a checkbook, but that's about it. The rest was on my own. Yeah, and look, we don't even use checkbooks anymore. Man, if you don't have a direction in life, like I know a lot of people who to this day don't have a direction in life. I think the armed forces is a great starting point. If you have no prospects, you have no idea what you want to do in life, you have no idea, like you can't go to college for one reason or another, and you want to get job experience, you want to learn a craft, a trade or something, I think the military can be the right way, depending on what you do and depending on how you utilize your time. There's 19, 20-year-olds that I ran into in the Middle East, and they were trying to learn how to make money, and they were all about this investing thing, right? So I gave them a crash course in the indexes and things like that, stocks, Robinhood, yada yada yada. But there's people who just ass around and they bullshit their entire time. They get drunk, they get in trouble, they buy a Dodge Charger with like 30% interest rate. They blow all their money. Again, your experience may vary, right? But some people go in there and they learn a craft. They become a mechanic, like an aerospace mechanic, aerospace engineer, right? They learn how to work on helicopters, planes, etc. People go into the IT field, right? You can learn a lot from the specialized schools that the military offers, right? But again, it's all up to the individual. Is the individual actually going to, go after this, or are they going to go and bullshit around for, a couple of years and then probably get kicked out? It's all on the individual. Howard Made says, all they teach you in school was to trade your time for labor for money. 100% agree. There's nothing about buying assets, earning interest, and making money while you sleep. Yep. Man, you guys are alive today. I love the comments. You guys are absolutely alive today. I could spend all day on this. Let's check our futures real quick. Okay, futures is still down, or still doing okay. Bitcoin still doing all right. Not too bad. Let's see what else we got. I love these Sunday invest and chill sessions. Like, they're so, like, there's not a bunch of news to cover. It's all kind of free flow. I think Victor is an undercover Coast Guard swimmer. He rescued me from the deep water every day. Jack to the T's, it was all in math class. They give you all the formulas for compounding interest and use all sorts of financial examples. Shrugs. Yeah, I mean, it's true. I wasn't paying attention in school, so that's my fault. Let's see. I hate New York City now. No life here. I mean, that was kind of how I'm feeling too. Yeah. I'm not going to answer that question though. To be honest, I don't like to talk about my personal, at least that type of personal stuff on live. Let's see. I took an elective in high school called business law. It had this little book published by Wall Street, Jor 8. Well, see, I mean, you sound like an individual that chased after it. Like you weren't bullshitting around in high school. Not like myself. I was actually in the ROTC program, so I was more focused on that, like, you know, leadership, core values, all that stuff. And then obviously that kind of bled into me deciding to pursue, you know, the armed forces afterwards. But that's awesome that you chased after it. See, my business school didn't have jack. It didn't do anything. Instead, we had people bringing shotguns to school and hiding them in their lockers and having the police, you know, search us. Yeah, it was pretty nasty at the school I went to. I'm actually surprised it's like nothing happened. Like, especially in these days, I couldn't imagine having a kid going to a public school. I'd be scared out of my mind. Let's see. From Alan saying, I never learned about interest or compounding in school either. However, I was always just doing the basic math classes. Yeah, that's me. Like, I wasn't doing advanced anything. Like, y equal mx plus b. I don't know the last time I used that. Like, I don't know the last time I used that, man, to be honest with you. Like, geometry, man. Like, I don't know the last time I used that. I'm not a freaking statistician or a freaking physicist, you know. I did enjoy my physics class, though. I really enjoyed my astronomy class. I will say that much. Glad you were a Coastie. Do you think MSTW will reverse split? I think so. If MSTR continues to fall. I think so if MSTR continues to fall. I don't think MSTR is going to continue falling from these levels. Some people are calling for $50 MSTR. If Bitcoin falls and breaks the power law and goes much lower, then yes, then MSTR will probably follow suit and end up in the $50 range. I personally don't think so. But, you know, I have been wrong before, and, you know, the models can be wrong. Then I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. It says, watch it all fall. See, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and then it completely changed like my entire life after that. So I know like I didn't even know Robert Kiyosaki had a podcast until like 2021, I think, or 2020. So I never heard him speak. I only read his books. And then when I started hearing him speak, I was like, man, this guy is off his rocker. Like, this dude is like he is not who I thought. You know what they say, like, you should never meet your heroes. Like that, when I started to hear him talk, I was like, dude, this guy's off his rocker. But, you know, like, I still think he does great work. You know, I still think he does great work despite being freaking really crazy at this point. I do daily streams as much as possible. I can't do them all, unfortunately, but, you know, I try to do them. I have fun doing the live streams. You know, that's why I kind of don't do the videos anymore, but I do want to get back in the videos. At one point, you know, I wanted to make the YouTube channel, you know, do memberships, do all this stuff. And I was like, there's no point. I don't want to do all this stuff. Should be free. Like, it should be free because I'm learning it for free. And, you know, if I'm learning things for free, the data's for free, why the hell should I try to do anything for money? So, you know, the value I get from doing it all for free is meeting everyone, you know, all the people chatting in this YouTube channel, right? I meet all of you guys. You guys have some great insights. You guys have different life experiences. You know, in the Discord, you know, shameless plug again. But in most of the Discords I've been in, there's a lot of interesting people who have their own investing philosophies and theories. It's good, right? It's good. Even if someone might hate a stock that I'm in, it's always good to hear their perspective. And at least, you know, you as the investor, you can come do your own decision, your own conclusion. So I like that. I don't know. I like that. I'm not bashing anyone that has their own private community or paid for communities and nothing like that. I'm not bashing that. I mean, if you're going to trade your time, you know, to address individuals and, you know, coach other people, then, you know, I think you should be compensated for that. So, but I don't offer any of that. So that's why I don't do any compensation stuff. Jack to the T says, easiest is the Air Force. Go into the administrative fields. You'll be able to get stationed anywhere in the world. There we go. Yeah. And I've met some administrative people. And meanwhile, you can work on your degree. You can work on certifications. You get time to go to the gym. I mean, you get free food in most places if you're overseas. So what's not to love? Kosti says, preach. The military is a great stepping stone, whether you do 4 or 5 years or 20. Yep. I like to say this publicly, but every time someone goes to a specialized school in the armed forces, usually a contractor is born because you can make a lot more money as a contractor. So at one point, you know, these young privates were asking me, hey man, like how much do you make? Like, how can I get, you know, into this field? I want to make some money. I hear you guys make 6 figures. I gave him the setup. I gave him the plan. I was like, keep your clearance clean, do your job here. When you get out, right? Get your certifications while you're in. And then when you get out, you can command a 6-figure job working for the government, right? As long as you have the experience and you have, you know, the work ethic. Use your time wisely when you're overseas. And, you know, some of them took the advice, some of them not. But, you know, it's funny, like the staff sergeant, the salty staff sergeant would hear me and he'd come over. He's like, no, do your 20 in the military, which is also good. It's not bad. He's like, no, do your 20 in the military, you know, get that pension. You know, you're going to check for life. You be a part of the Check for Life Club, get out, you know, do all this other stuff. And, you know, you'll be set for life. Both options are good, right? Both pathways can lead to a nice life. It's just how much bullshit do you want to deal with in between, right? Because the civilian contracting life has equal amounts of BS that the, you know, military also has. So again, your mileage, your experience may vary. But yes, those kind of my thoughts on there. Sergio says, best advice to married couples, give your wife an allowance and keep the rest invested. There we go. Yeah, my cousin's in the Navy now for 6 years. What are the benefits? Yep, I already talked about it. I see your comments. From Jack to the TC, like I said, you could teach people and they'll screw it up. Yeah, I mean, 100% true. It is 100% true. I'm living proof of it. Sometimes I like to try things out myself and then get screwed over and then be like, okay, that didn't work out. Now I know why, you know, so-and-so said, don't do that, right? Sometimes you have to learn things the hard way. It is as regular old high school algebra stuff. Let's see. From Joseph saying, best advice I actually listened to was invest in yourself and no one else. Man, let's get a round of applause for that one. That is dope. That is a good one. That is the best advice right there, is to invest in yourself. Exactly. Invest in yourself. Take yourself serious. Be responsible for yourself. That is really the best advice. And Jack to the T's would also agree. Watch It All Fall says, it said stocks, bonds, mutual funds. It was basic level, but a start. I remember my teacher saying never do futures. See, when I started learning about this stuff, I didn't even know what the hell an expense ratio was. And my friend was trying to explain all this stuff to me in 2015. He was trying to explain this stuff to me. And I was like, he just didn't do a good job. I didn't understand like ratios and percentages and like really understand it the way I do now. Again, maybe I was just stupid back then, and I probably was. But now, like, you know, whenever I explain something, I try to explain the full, you know, like the content behind it. Like if I say expense ratio to someone who's brand spanking new, they're not going to know what the hell an expense ratio is. So I will say an expense ratio is a payment you make on the fund for owning it, right? Stocks don't have expense ratios, but ETFs, mutual funds, those have expense ratios. You're paying someone to manage it for you. And they're like, oh, I get it. And then you show them the math and they're like, oh, I get it now. Let's see. DQ says, ha ha ha, rattled off the slope intercept formula, math nerd here. Let's go. I'm not a math nerd, but I appreciate the comment. Watch It All Fall says, shit was inspirational at the time. Let's just ladder out our CDs. Thank you, brother, for doing this for free. You're very welcome. Joseph says, love the free content. I've learned everything I know from YouTube also. Yep, I would agree with myself as well. A little late to the topic, but I think Bitcoin will at least dip to the 40K, 45K area at some point before any potential setup to transition back to an uptrend. Awesome. Yeah, and I see that same number, 40 to 45K. I've been seeing it everywhere. So we will find out. Interesting point. FTX, around FTX, when FTX blew up, the same exact sentiment was coming out, same exact sentiment. And instead of falling lower, we ended up climbing higher. Well, we chopped sideways for a couple of months and then we started climbing higher. And I was putting a lot of this stuff in the Discord. I was kind of just sharing a lot of my thoughts. Let me see if I can pull it up right here. And this is not a knock on anybody, okay? This is not a knock on your thought process or anything. It's just something I noticed, right? Because usually during these massive falls, people start throwing out all these crazy price targets, right? All these crazy things. We have videos. I put videos in the Discord from Gareth Soloway back then, right? Almost 2-3 years ago, saying that Bitcoin was going to fall to like 9,000. He was, giving his thoughts and he was putting up these charts and everything. Resistance here. It looks like a bear flag, blah, blah, blah. And Bitcoin did not fall, right? But if you look at the power law showed that the bottom at that time was, I think, like the 15,000 range or 14,000 range. So it never fell below that. But anyways, yeah. So after the Terra Luna collapse and FTX, there was price targets for 10 to 13,000. And then people were calling for it much lower, saying that it was going to reach the single digits, right? Single digit numbers, 7,000, 9,000. So, and I was looking for videos about that to just kind of gauge that interest or that sentiment. And honestly, it shapes up to be exactly like that, like the same exact sentiment, the same exact kind of fear, doom, and gloom when Bitcoin has a sell-off. And we saw this in February. Same thing in February. Exact same thing. People were like, oh, we're going to fall much lower. It's going to go lower, 30K Bitcoin. And then we kind of started our slow grind back to the top, and then we sold off. So I don't know. History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes, right? That's the old saying. Let's see. Just by Mo. Yep. Life problems could be solved just by Mo. Let's see what else we have. Man, you guys are alive. I can't keep up with all the comments today. It is good to go as a contractor until you get sick in a third world country and you have to find a local hospital to get treatment. I've gotten sick in a third world country. Let's call it Iraq. Not really, but I mean the med centers on base were pretty good, pretty adequate to at least deal with that. I have friends in Africa who are on some secret squirrel bases. They won't even tell me where they're really at, but they've mentioned it that they're at least in the areas, and they don't have it, but that's because they're on a very forward deployed area in a very inhospitable area, austere environment, as it were. So yeah, if you get sick in a third world country, like if you get malaria or whatever this new virus, the hantavirus, yeah, you're probably going to get flown out and sent elsewhere. Like Germany is where a lot of the high profile like injuries, where a lot of those people end up going to. But if you're a contractor, most likely they'll just ship you to Kuwait and then you go to the local hospital there or something. If you're in Africa, I don't even know where they would send you. Or they might just send you home because you're a contractor. Honestly, like the government does not really care about contractors. The company cares, but not the government. The government is, just like, hey, we're paying you for a service. Don't care if you get sick. Either put a new body in the seat or we're gonna give you a downgrade on your contract. Rich Dad Poor Dad, great book. Change Your Point of View, says G Nation, explains greatly on why the wealth succeeds or the wealthy succeed. Exactly. Assets, liabilities, right? Assets and liabilities. Remember, employees are not on Forbes. That's true. Even the ones that get salaries in the millions. That's tough. That's tough. Yeah. Wealthy. Yeah. Employees are not mentioned on Forbes. Jack to the Seas says, really, the Air Force is the hardest? I mean, it's been a long while since I was in, but I was in there with some real knuckle draggers. Shots fired, ladies and gentlemen. Shots fired. No, I don't know anything about the Air Force. I've worked on an Air Force base. It was honestly the best base I ever worked on in the Middle East. Really nice by comparisons to Army bases, and it's crazy. They have a totally different way of going about life too. They're not as they don't have a stick up their butt like the Army does. No offense taken to anyone. I hope no offense taken to anyone who's worked in the Army, but if you've ever been to Camp Arif, John, you guys would know The army just has a huge stick up their butt. Like, yeah, they everything is by the standard. Whereas Al Udeid in Qatar, everything was way more lax. Everything was really chill. You didn't have the freaking security forces chasing after you with like 6 cars, because you're speeding or something. Like, they were way more chill. I'll say that. They were, in my personal experience. Let's see. Sergio says, here is one: working for a company is borrowed time before you start your own journey. Business, don't marry the company, learn how the business is ran. That's great. Great insight. Great advice. There's nothing wrong with working for a company, in my opinion. There's nothing wrong if you love to climb that ladder, take on responsibility, get paid better. What is the saying? It's like the competent get compensated. I think there's, I think it's good if you work for a good company that sees your potential and will allow you to grow, right? And then eventually you pick up those skill sets, you either promote or you move out, right, to somewhere that's paying you more. So I think, of course, there's good and bad with everything. If you work for a crappy company, management sucks, your supervisor sucks, nobody really cares, everyone's just trying to get by, then yeah, you're going to have a crappy time. But if you work for like a real like professional organization where they challenge you and, want you to move up and you want to move up and take on more responsibility, I think there's value in that as well. That's So Badass says, watch it all fall. I always regretted not going in. I was morally opposed to Desert Storm. Then the world got crazy with 9/11, but I already had kids and a wife. Yeah, I mean, that changes everything. That changes everything. See, I went in single, and even as a contractor, for the most part, I was single all the way through. Like, just, I had to leave some relationships back in the US. I was like, I'm not coming back. All right. So I need to chop, just cut it off. I was more focused on chasing the dollar and chasing my own professional development. And I mean, that made all the difference for me personally. So Alan says, do you think the market crashing in 2022 had any effect on Bitcoin at the time? What is it? Causation is not, I forget the saying. It's like causation is not realization or something like that. So just because the stock market crashed did not mean that Bitcoin was also going to crash. Bitcoin fell for other reasons, right? Maybe the stock market crashing and Bitcoin was just coincidence, because as we're seeing now, the stock market is ripping like crazy. Bitcoin's not doing anything. Bitcoin continues to go down, 4-year cycle, blah, 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 right? Liquidity, all that stuff plays into it. 2022, the reason why Bitcoin bottomed even more was because of the FTX and Luna collapse, right? You had FTX that was just freaking giving away everyone free money. And, they had no accounting whatsoever, right? Although Sam Bankman-Fried did make a lot of good investments in companies like Anthropic, OpenAI, etc. Too bad he ended up in jail, and he had and they basically liquidated those shares because they would have been worth billions at this point. I think he also had an investment in Robinhood as well. So sucks to suck. Sergio says, the surf and turf day at the Air Force dining facility was the best. Dude, I had gotten lobster tails and steak while I was in Iraq. And crab legs, snow crab legs. Like I've eaten some like really damn good food in deployed areas. I will say at least let's see. Yeah, the dining facilities in deployed areas are the best. At the U.S. Embassy in Iraq, both the U.S. Embassy and the embassy support, there's 2 different bases. Their DFAC, their dining facility, bro, unimaginable amounts of amazing food, like fresh salads, freaking, they would cook a steak. They'd have 3 different versions of steak. They'd have rare, medium rare, and fully cooked. They'd have like 21 food stations. It was like a buffet, like a straight up buffet. And it was so damn good. They had like everything from, even breakfast was amazing. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Like, yeah, I gained some weight during that time. that's why I had to go on the freaking carnivore diet. Let's see. From Jack to the Seas, I went to my tech school in Biloxi, Mississippi. I love the Southern fried catfish. I love Southern fried catfish. I was in Louisiana, and during the oil spill, when BP, the cap blew up, I was there for the Coast Guard. And man, I loved freaking Southern catfish, fried catfish. It was absolutely delicious. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's going to do it for me. We've been streaming for about 2 hours. I hope you guys had some fun. I know we went off topic, talking about GLPs, talking about the military, armed forces, everything else. But again, this is the Sunday Invest and Chill session, right? So we don't really have a whole lot to talk about. But we did cover, some of the interest rates. We talked about the market ahead and what we got going on there. So hopefully we can keep this pump going, because let's see what the futures looks like one last time. All right, looks like we're doing okay. All right, let's see what the Kospi is doing, if I can find that tab. Let's see if our good friends in South Korea are coming back. It looks like they are coming back. All right, so hopefully we keep this going, and hope everyone has a wonderful evening, wonderful rest of your night, wherever you are in the world. And I will see you all in the next stream. You guys take care, all right?